So I'm going to talk today a little bit about acceleration and sprint mechanics and how to train both of these from a strength and conditioning standpoint. So my name is Phill Wiltshire. I'm the head strength and conditioning coach at SUNY Cortland, which is a small state school about right in the center of New York. So first I want to get into a story here. So I was a track and field athlete. I was a track and field coach before I became a strength and conditioning coach. And I kind of had an aha moment with acceleration and sprint mechanics. Because I came from a track and field background, I assumed that all other athletes were also getting instruction on how to run correctly in their sport. It wasn't until I was talking with our soccer coach about our new focus on mechanics and form that I realized that doesn't really happen. What he told me is, I'm the soccer coach, I'm a sport coach. I don't really watch them when they don't have the ball. I'm really only focused on the players that have the ball. So he doesn't watch them sprint, run, or do any of those things. So it falls on us as strength and conditioning coaches to make sure that the athletes are learning how to accelerate and how to sprint correctly. The first thing that you want to think about when you're looking at acceleration is to look at the setup. So obviously, if we're in a sport, if we're actually playing, we don't get this nice setup. But if we're testing something like a 40-yard dash or something along those lines, we want to instruct the athletes on how to set up correctly. So checklist starts with the head position. Make sure that the head of the athlete is relaxed or neutral. So in this case, the athlete here has his eyes on the front foot, which is a great cue to get them in the proper head position. Hips should be higher than the shoulders. Again, referring to the athlete in this picture, his hips are definitely higher than his shoulders. A positive shin angle, all that really means is you're going to go where your shins point. So in this picture, I put these little purple arrows, and that's the direction that this athlete's shins are pointing. If you think about it and he's really far back, his shins are pointing straight upwards, his first movement is going to be up. So this is a good position. Shin angle is pointing out. Heels should be off the ground and loaded. Again, good check mark for this athlete here. The free arm should be back and loaded. In this case, for this athlete, it's that left arm. Probably could be back and loaded a little bit more. It's tucked in by about where his pocket would be. I would think he can get a little bit higher there. Then lastly, the feet, the front foot, and this is general starting, should be about a foot back from the line. The back foot, the toe should be aligned with the heel of the front foot, and the feet should be just inside shoulder width apart. That's a good general starting point for most athletes, and they can kind of adjust from there based on what feels more comfortable for them. So the checklist for starting an acceleration is right here. Next, getting into an actual checklist when they actually begin to accelerate. So again, we want to look at that shin angle and the forward lean. We want to make sure that the shin angle is pointing down the field and or track. So looking where those knees are pointing. We want to see a good triple extension. So we're talking about ankles, knees, and hips at the push off of each step. We want to see a low heel recovery. So the faster that the athlete can get back to the ground to push again, the better. So if the heel comes nice and low along the ground, and you're going to see this really well in this video here, the better. We want to see a triple flexion of the front leg. So we want to see the ankle, knee, and hip flex of the front leg. And we want to see nice, big, and powerful arms. The whole point of the acceleration is to get moving as fast as we can. And we get moving as fast as we can by creating a lot of power. A big arm swing creates a lot of power. So I'll show you this video a couple times here. It's going to go through 3 different starts here. And what I want you to look at is the low heel recovery of this athlete, how low his feet stay to the ground, especially in this one, and how much he pushes on each of these steps. So I'll start that over at the beginning. Pay attention to that low heel recovery and watch how powerful each of his strides are, because he's getting that full triple extension on each of these steps. This is kind of picturesque acceleration mechanics right here. In case anybody is wondering, this is Trayvon Bromell. All right, so what can you do as a coach in order to get these athletes in better position for when they are accelerating? What kind of cues can you use? So thinking about or telling the athlete to punch their knee forward as they're running, like they're trying to knee somebody in the thigh. If we take a look at this picture here, and I look at this athlete's front knee, if I imagine a person standing there, it looks about thigh level, maybe about knee level, that he's punching that knee forward. One of the common mistakes is saying lift your knees, raise your knees. It doesn't really equate well to the athletes. Something like punch your knee forward works a little bit better in getting them into the right position here. Their toes should be up, which we all call dorsiflexed, which is that toe should be pulled towards the shin. So if we look at this athlete pictured here, that front foot, that toe is pretty much pulled towards the shin. It's hard to tell in this portion of his acceleration, but it will be pulled towards the shin even more. Again, we want to focus on big arms. We talk about driving it from the forearms, like you're trying to drive a forearm shiver into somebody's chin. So if I try to drive a forearm into somebody's chin as powerfully as I can, that's going to give me the correct arm action when I'm doing an actual acceleration. And the last and possibly most important part is get back to the ground quickly and hammer back and down. So back and down is bolded, it's underlined, probably means that it's pretty important. This is one of the biggest things to focus on when we are teaching or looking at acceleration, is to drive the feet back and down. Okay? Big thing that does is it prevents overstriding. If I ever contact out in front of my hips, my foot touches the ground out in front of my hips, that is a braking motion. The worst thing you can possibly do when you're accelerating is put on the brakes. If you're trying to accelerate as fast as you can, we want to make sure that that foot is getting back and down. It's not out in front of our hips. Okay, also in acceleration, there are longer ground contact times. So the force or the speed of the acceleration is determined by the force the athlete puts in the ground and how long that force is applied. So this is one of the tricky things. Athletes want to go and just tap the ground a lot of times when they're accelerating. What happens is we call that getting nowhere fast. It's like twinkle toes, that they're just going really quick. If you think of someone on like a speed ladder, you can watch someone be as quick as they can possibly be on a speed ladder, but they're not going anywhere. So we want to focus on pushing on the ground a little bit longer. I can guarantee the athlete's going to think they're going slower, but this is going to help their overall acceleration. It's going to help them get to a faster speed quicker. So next, what kind of weight room training can we do in order to improve the acceleration of our athletes? So obviously getting into some unilateral variations, since running, sprinting, acceleration is all a unilateral movement. So anything like a normal step up, sprinter step ups. So the only difference between a normal step up and a sprinter step up is when I step onto the box, I am driving my opposite leg so that my knee ends up by my belly button. Split squats, split squat jumps and switch jumps. So all a switch jump is you start in a split squat position, jumping in the air and switch which leg is forward. All of these I'm not showing videos of, but all of these in the yellow are hyperlinked in case you do want to go and look at actual videos of these. Power step-ups I do have pictured. These are one of my favorite exercises for teaching athletes how to push off of one leg. So what we'll do is the leg that is up on a box or on a bench, that is the leg that's creating the power. the athlete will actually jump and take off into the air, switch their legs. The other leg is kind of slowing them down a little bit on the way down, and they land back on the ground. So we're creating power mostly from that front leg and really isolating and being able to push through that front leg. Lunges, we'll do lunges with a little bit of a caveat of squeeze the ground at the bottom, try to pull the ground together between your feet. And then we'll also do lunges where we're loading it with a sled so that we're loading it horizontally rather than vertically if we're just holding weights or have something on our back. Obviously, squat and deadlift variations, anything we're doing to gain actual strength. We'll do a lot of partner banded runs, and that's really simple. We take a heavy band, goes around the waist of our partner, somebody else holds on behind them, and the partner gets to lean over, and they actually get to run with that band as a resistance. Sled work is obviously fantastic for any sort of acceleration. So one of the cool things that we can do with sleds is a heavy sled push or drag actually helps to teach that forward lean aspect. So in order to move a heavy sled or to drag a heavy sled, the athlete will physically have to lean forward and will have to push through the ground, and it'll look a lot like the position that they should be in when they are accelerating. So it's one of the few ways we can slow down an acceleration and work on the different positions when we're not at actual full speed. So we'll do sled bounds as well. This will be a little bit lighter, and this will be pushing the sled. It's a lot easier to push a sled for bounds than to have it pull behind you. And then sled sprints with about 60 to 80% of body weight for acceleration work. A marches, A skips, and high knees. I'm not going to get into those too much here. And then bounding variations. One of the things that I realized early on, athletes have trouble bounding just off the bat. A lot of them can't understand that movement. So quick progressions for our bounds is to do a bound and stick. So we do a bound, it's one foot to the other foot. You just lock it in, reset, do another bound, lock it in, reset. We'll do small bounds, so not traveling very far. And then we'll move to big bounds where we're trying to cover some distance. So field and gym drills. So anything we can do on the field or in like a gymnasium to develop our actual acceleration. So acceleration runs, so AKA sprints from various positions. So we'll do push-up starts, falling starts, which means the athlete starts standing up. They fall from their ankle joint, their back and hip should still be straight. And then when they feel they're about to fall on their face, that's when they start their acceleration. Starting from a mountain climber, starting from half kneeling, which is in this picture here, this is probably one of my favorite starting positions for athletes. If you can imagine being down in this position like I'm at the bottom of a lunge, I have to push off that front foot like crazy to get going. I have to produce a lot of power with that front leg. I'm also teaching the correct shin angle. Probably in this picture should be rotated a little bit more, but I'm teaching the proper position to start. A jump back sprint is a little more advanced version where I start at the line and I jump back a tiny bit and then start. So it overloads me eccentrically before I start my sprint. And everybody's favorite, hill sprints. Crouched med ball throw to start. A med ball starts at our feet. We throw it as we start our acceleration. Our goal is to throw it so hard that we can't catch it. Sled work, I talked about that on the previous slide. We can do it on the field as well, and same with bounding variations. So now quickly how to train acceleration. So acceleration is a fast movement. So if we are doing it, we have to be fast. So the total volume of a day, if we're focused on acceleration, in a perfect world, it would be timed. And when they slow down by 3 to 5% for 2 reps in a row, we know we're done with our acceleration for the day. But if you don't have the option to time, then 500 to 300 yards of total volume would work as a max for an acceleration day. Distance per rep, it's really no more than 20 yards. After that, the athletes aren't accelerating anymore. We're working on max speed at that point. So we'll break it up. We'll do ladders, 5, 10, 15, 20-yard sprints, and we can mix them up however we want in there to get the total volume for the day. Recovery, again, this is a very high velocity movement, so we need a lot of recovery. Should be about 1 minute for every 10 yards that they run for each rep. And just some general suggestions: change the stance often, add in rundowns, tag, and races for competition. Anytime you're adding in competition, you're going to increase the effort that you're getting from the athletes. So have an athlete start 5 yards ahead of another one. That athlete tries to catch them. We'll do tag where we'll use pool noodles. So just like a 3-foot long pool noodle, and the back person's trying to hit the front person with that pool noodle. So we're not actually hitting and pushing people over. And then any sort of relay races competition is going to increase that effort that you're getting from those accelerations. So moving on to full speed, our max speed sprint mechanics, they are different than our acceleration mechanics. So first off, starting at the head again, head should be neutral with that face relaxed. If the athlete is really good at this, you actually see their cheeks bounce as they're running. Every time they hit the ground, their cheeks will bounce. Now we're focusing on, instead of driving our arms forward like we were in acceleration, we're focusing on driving our arms back. Our knees will be high. So in this picture, that knee is now up about belly button height for this athlete, and foot is definitely dorsiflexed. That toe is definitely pulled towards the shin. Now our foot contact should be right underneath our hips. Again, if it's out in front, it's a break. When we're moving fast, we don't want to break. We want to go fast. Thus, we have to stop and change direction. And being quick off the ground. So that's the biggest difference between our acceleration and our max speed. If we're at max speed, we can't go any faster. So we are hitting the ground really quick and getting back off of it. So one of my favorite cues is ground is lava. Tap the ground, get back off, ground is lava, get back off the ground. So how to teach full speed mechanics, because they are a little bit different. So one of the number one ways to teach the athletes these mechanics are wickets, or we call them in the track and field world, banana hurdles. In this picture, it's those small yellow hurdles. Or if you see that third lane, they're just using cones, which can be used just the same as these banana hurdles. So kind of the progression that you would use teaching your athletes how to hit the right positions, you would start walking. So the athlete in the gray sweatpants is walking over the banana hurdles. The athlete closest to the screen in the black leggings there, she is running a little bit faster. That's why she has that lean, and the athlete that's walking doesn't. So we start walking. We start with a double hop. So you're hopping on a single leg in between. We go 3/4 speed, and then we'll do them fast. The distance between them starts about 5 feet apart for females, 5.5 feet for men. And as the athletes get proficient with the movement, we move them out about 3 inches further. One of the cues, or one of the tips, Peter hit on this in his earlier talk about acceleration mechanics as well, is holding something up overhead. So like a roller, a weight, a med ball. We isolate that lower body and we get better movement through the hips. And then A-walks, A-skips, and high knees are really popular and common with teaching people how to be at full speed in the proper position. The last part is adding in the arms. So we'll do seated running arms, where we're sitting on our butt trying to pump our arms as fast as we can, just to cue in the focus on driving the arms back. And really quickly, how to train max end speed. Basically, it's flying reps, and flying reps. And all a flying rep means is that you really aren't concerned about the acceleration portion. So you're giving the athletes about 15 to 30 meters to accelerate. The best way to do that is to split it up into a jog, an accelerate, and then a sprint. If you don't, the athletes will jog say if you give them 30 meters, they'll jog for 25 and then try to all out sprint in that last 5 meters leading up to it. So we are concerned with the portion where the timing system is in this picture. So the athletes get to build their speed by the start of the timing system. They should be as fast as they can, and they run through that end timing system there. So one of the best things you can do is time this in that max speed portion. The athletes will want to know their time. All you have to do, let them know their time. They're going to ask what Jim ran, what Bob ran. They're going to try to compete with each other, and then try to compete with themselves and make sure that they run faster. Total volume with this, again, if you can time it, stop when you get a drop off. If you can't, no more than 300 meters with this is longer rest, 2 to 3 minutes at least, because we are having more overall sprinting volume in each of these reps. So this is harder on the body than acceleration work as well. This is one of the hardest things you can do on the central nervous system, are these flying reps where you're building to an all-out speed and then going as fast as you possibly can. So just to summarize a little bit, so many athletes don't get taught how to sprint in their actual sport. It falls on you as a strength and conditioning coach to teach them how to accelerate and how to sprint. The drills and the form, it's really easy to throw those lower level drills and warm-ups, but they should be done year round. Don't wait until the specific prep portion of your year to start teaching them how to sprint. They should learn how to sprint from day one. It's going to take constant direction and correction. So even at sub-max speeds, when you're doing a tempo run or something along those lines, make sure that they are hitting the proper positions and try to catch them doing something well. Point it out whenever they're doing something really well. That'll help to get them in the right spot, and they'll listen to when you point out someone else is doing it well. This takes time. Track and field, we will focus on sprinting day in and day out, and it'll still take a year for an athlete to learn how to sprint correctly. So this will take time, so don't get discouraged. Just always be trying to push the athletes to do a little bit better. And lastly, my contact info is down here on the right. If you have any questions about acceleration, sprint mechanics, best way to reach me is through Instagram or email.